Hey guys, it's Daniel from the Truck Insurance Channel, and we're going to go over all the different variables that affect the cost of truck insurance, right? A lot of people ask me about this. There's a ton of different things that can affect the rates, right? So we're going to break this down. This is more geared towards Progressive, but a lot of the other insurance companies will factor based on these things as well. So here we go. First off, base rates related to your home state. So wherever you are set up, right, should be the same state. Like wherever you're licensed should be the same state that you are a resident. You set up your business, incorporate, register for your motor carrier authority, all that should all be the same state. If you're trying to do something in another state where you are not licensed or a resident, or really just licensed, right? Like if you're licensed there, you're probably a resident. Some people are in, multiple states, whatever, or they're trying to go to another state to set up their business for cheaper insurance, cheaper filing, whatever, all that, less taxes, who knows. If it's not the same, especially when you're getting started, it's going to cause problems, all right? I'll go into that in another video, but the state you're in has base rates associated with all the zip codes of that state, all right? Every insurance company has base rates, and that's where the policy starts, all right? And then based on all these other variables, the rate goes up or down. That's it. Like, you really can't control where you live, right? But I mean, I guess you could move, but well, let's not get into that. The business owner's credit score is a huge one. If you have multiple partners in the business, all right, whoever is going to be designated as the financially responsible party, right, is their credit's what really matters, okay? This should be the person that's like the CEO or the person that has like final decision-making power and is most involved in daily operations, okay? It shouldn't be, well, let me add grandma to the LLC because she's got better credit. That's not how this should be working. Material misrepresentation is something that's like, you don't want to play around with that, especially when you're talking about $1 million policies. Just keep things neat and clean, all right? If you have lower credit, rate's going to be higher. Better credit, cheaper insurance, and also more options for billing and down payment. The better the credit, the lower the down payment, like percentage-wise. So a lot of times, if you're on the lower side or a lower tier, you might only have 16, 20, or 30% down as an option. Whereas if you have better credit and you're in the higher tiers, you might have 9 or 10% down as an option, which is really cool. And you might be able to go 10 or 11 payments instead of 9 or 10, right? So that it's just, there's a lot that is weighted by the business owner's credit score. Next is, we'll go into vehicles. So the age of the vehicle makes a big difference, right? If it's a newer vehicle, it costs more. If it's an older vehicle, it doesn't cost as much, plain and simple. The cost of the vehicle, right? The value of it. So if your vehicle is worth $100,000, your insurance is going to be a lot more than a vehicle that costs $25,000, okay? It's just more exposure for the insurance company, so you're sharing in the cost of that with the insurance premiums, right? Vehicle weight class, all right? The heavier the vehicle, the more the insurance costs. The lighter the vehicle, the less the insurance costs. So, like, a box truck doesn't cost as much as a semi, all right? That's one thing I get asked a lot. Like, does a semi really cost that much different if I'm going from box trucks to semis? It's a heavier vehicle. You're going from, like something under 26,000 pounds to 45,000 pounds. So weight class makes a big difference too. Drivers, this is the big one, right? So driver age, okay? I put like younger this way, older that way, but there is like a stop over here at some point, depending on how old you are and what insurance company it is. There's limitations and like requirements. So some insurance companies won't insure drivers that are over a certain age, right? But in general, if you're an older driver, you're more experienced in general, and the way the insurance people think it should work, means that your insurance is going to be cheaper. If you're younger, you're less experienced, or so insurance companies think, it's going to cost more, right? So like the age where a lot of insurance companies start discounting more is at 35 years old. So 35 and up, 40 and up, normally cheaper insurance. If you're under 23 and under, to the moon. All right. the state the driver is licensed in, right? If it's the same state as where your company is registered, where the policy is based out of, then it normally won't cost that much more than it would if the driver was licensed in a state other than the state you're set up in, right? So if they're an out-of-state driver, essentially, for your business, the rate normally goes up for that. The driving record, okay? If they've got a lot of claims, accidents, tickets, all that, the rate's going through the roof, okay? If they're a good driver and they have a clean record over the past 3 to 5 years, depends on which insurance company and what state you're in. Some look back 3 years, some look back 5. So, you know, the less that's on the motor vehicle report, the better. But if there's anything, it's probably driving the rate up, right? The older a violation, so like if it's an accident or a ticket, the older it is, the less it affects it. So like, it's not like if you got a ticket yesterday for speeding 10 miles over, that normally doesn't affect you as bad as if you got a ticket 4.5 years ago going 10 miles over, okay? Like it's weighted based on age as well in most scenarios with most insurance companies. All right, so next, the owner. If they are a driver, then there's normally not a surcharge or there wouldn't be a surcharge. If they're not a driver, it's considered higher risk for the insurance company. So there's normally like a surcharge if the owner is not a driver. You should almost always leave the driver as an owner, right? Unless they have a really bad driving record or just, never really will drive, right? Okay, so we've got vehicle, we got driver, then we have garaging address, which could be different than the address where you're actually like doing business, or like if you have an office, or if your principal place of business is your home address, right? You could have a different garaging address because you might park the truck somewhere else. One of your drivers that lives in another state might park it at their house or like a truck yard near their house. So the garaging address can make a huge difference, right? This is all zip code based in most scenarios, but if it's in a different state, it's normally going to cost a whole lot more if you're parking it somewhere out of state, right? If you're parking it in the same state as where your policy is and where your business is and where you're licensed, all that good stuff, it's normally not going to make any difference, or it might not make too much difference. Now it can though. I've seen quite a few times where it's literally a couple miles down the road, but it's a different zip code, and that zip code has different rates. So you might want to consider this if you're using like a truck yard to park your truck, or like leasing a space at a truck lot. You might want to run the insurance first and figure out like if that's a good option because it can make a big difference. A couple other things like ELD. There's like some agents just don't even care, I guess, but they all should. Make sure when you're getting quotes, you're getting your ELD discount. It starts off at 5%, goes up to 20%. For new ventures, it's always going to be 5%. So make sure you have that because that's some savings. And then, normally the savings like outweigh the cost of the actual ELD. Coverages and limits. The more your limits are, the more coverages you have, right? Like most everybody's getting $1 million in auto liability and $100,000 in cargo, right? So that's pretty basic. But if you're starting your policy off with lower limits, or no cargo, just auto liability, just to get the thing started and get your authority activated, we do that a lot of the time, that's going to be less. When we go to add everything and you actually start operating, then it's going to go up, right? Like more coverages, more expensive. Plain and simple. Deductibles. So there's deductibles like on the cost of your vehicle, so your physical damage, comp and collision. The higher the deductible, the lower the insurance cost, right? You're driving the cost of the insurance down. If you've got lower deductibles, right? So like if you have an accident, it's your fault, right? And you have a $500 deductible, that's going to cost more than if you had a $2,500 deductible. The deductible is what you pay out of pocket, right? So, or maybe not out of pocket, but what would be deducted from what you would get. So like, let's say you have a $10,000 claim or like $10,000 worth of damage. The insurance company is going to cut you a check for the damage that happened to your vehicle. If it was your fault, that's a collision claim. So if it was $10,000, you have a $2,500 deductible, you're getting a $7,500 check. If you've got a $500 deductible, you're getting a $9,500 check. Okay? So if you want a lower deductible, insurance costs more. If you want a higher deductible, you're going to save some money on insurance. plain and simple. Prior insurance. This was real big for Progressive. If you have personal insurance, like your personal auto, like for your vehicle that you drive on a regular basis, you can get a discount for that, right? If you don't have any prior insurance, there's no discount, it just costs more. That's pretty much it. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to leave them in the comments or schedule calls with us. We do the consultations and stuff for free. You can always email us and, like and subscribe, do all that. And thanks, and I'll have some more out soon.